Welcome you to the last day of the session. Today's session, now Sri Rajesh Mahajan will take you through risk analysis, followed by Q&A session, followed by online assessment test. Then we have a guest today, Sri Kishore Sansi, ex-CMD Vijaya Bank, who will be interacting with you. And then Executive Director Madam from Canara Bank, Madam Mani Maklai will address you, and then there will be a concluding session. So this is the program, and now I request Mahajan ji to take over.
Thank you very much, Mr. Isar. I will be starting my PPT, and from that I'll start the session.
Yes, please.
Is this visible on the screen?
Yes, it is visible.
Okay. So, very warm welcome on this technically last session and the concluding session on the project finance. Broadly, during this last 4 days, what we have covered was the financial statement analysis, both from Ind AS angle and non-Ind AS angle. Then it was on the working capital assessment, project finance assessment, then particularly overview of few industries. And today, what is the all risk assessment or the risk management in the project finance that we are going to discuss. So today's session has been arranged. First, risk overview in project finance, important risk in project finance, risk allocation and its mitigation. So that will be the today's focus. So starting with what in the project finance so far we have learned, quickly in 2-3 slides we will be recapturing. When we talk about the project finance and project appraisal, so project appraisal as such is the due diligence conducted on sponsors, that means the promoters, about the technical part, about the market part, about the environmental part, financial, legal and risk aspects, among others of the proposed projects. It is the assessment of the viability of the proposed long-term investments in terms of shareholder wealth. From the lender perspective, whenever we are talking about the viability, we are talking about the recovery of interest as well as installment. So there will be a different stakeholders in the project, as by this time all of you may be aware. And among that, the one of the main stakeholder, they are the lenders or the bankers. So from the banker perspective, it will be always viability means that we are able to recover the money as well as the interest. There is a thumb rule as far as the total tenor of the loan is concerned. Please note down, and the thumb rule is what is the total life of the project. Normally, the total length of the loan should not be more than 50 to 60%. That is the minimum, maximum 60%. Normally, we should try that all the recovery we are able to do within a period of 50% of the life of the asset. For example, if there is a power project or a road project which is having the total life of 20 years, so then the loan should not be more than 12 years. Preferably, it should be within 10 years if we have to establish the viability. This is the thumb rule. So from a commercial bank's perspective, the focus is on whether the project can generate sufficient cash flow. Only then they will be able to return our money or we'll be able to recover the debt. So sufficient cash flow to repay its debt and provide an acceptable rate of return to sponsors. So this is basically the perspective of the commercial banks. So what is the definition of the project financing? So there is an international association known as the International Project Finance Association. They defined the project financing as the financing of long-term infrastructure, industrial projects and public service based upon a non-recourse or limited recourse financial structure, where project debt and equity used to finance the project are paid back from the cash flows generated by the project. This is basically the definition which is provided by the International Project Finance Association. So there are two types of the projects. One is the non-recourse. That means non-recourse to the sponsors or the limited recourse financial structure. That means whenever it is basically the onus on the lenders, whenever they are financing, either by way of the term loan or by investing in their loan bonds. So it is to be ensured that the project itself shall be in a position to generate the sufficient cash flow. So this is basically the basic risk to find out the financial viability of the project. So a project finance transactions involves the mobilization of debt, equity, contingent equity, hedges, and a variety of limited guarantees. During this session, we will be going through all these aspects one by one, and we will be trying to simplify as far as possible for understanding the whole concept. So in nutshell, whenever you are handling any project, so you will be receiving a project report or information memorandum. This is an important document, and the component of this memorandums is consisting of four parts: management analysis, economic analysis, technical analysis, and the financial analysis. This perhaps day before yesterday in the project finance assessment you may have come across. So who is preparing this project report information memorandum? In the case of very big projects, this is done by the syndication or the arranger. There are merchant bankers or the basically the investment bankers. They are offering their services to the such companies and those who want to set up a big project, and then they are preparing the total report, and that report is known as the information memorandum. So the very first risk is for the bankers, those particularly who are at the credit desk. Whenever such information memorandum is coming, so then when you are doing the appraisal, your own appraisal for the purpose of sanction, you please minutely go through this information memorandum. It should not be simply cut and paste. In the following slides, I will tell you, we have seen the working capital assessment, how to be done. We have seen that how the balance sheet analysis has to be done. We have seen how the project finance assessment has to be done. So for a credit officer or for a credit analyst, this financial viability part is very, very important. Now, there is a technical part also, there is an economic part also. Mostly all the bank, as per their policy, they are having a project finance cell where this techno-economic viability is undertaken separately. They first of all, either they are engaging some outsource agency or they are having their own setup like the SBI CAP or like any such consultants. There are a lot of consultants, and you may be in your bank also may be having a list of all such approved consultants to, as per your policy. You can refer to them. So they will be conducting the techno-economic viability on your behalf. In that, in case if you are going through that viability report, you will be finding at the end that there has to be clearly certified that this project is viable according to the techno-economic aspect. They will not be saying that it is financially viable also, but in case if they are doing the techno-economic viability, so they will be restricting their judgment or their opinion about the techno-economic viability. When we say about the techno-economic viability, I need not to revise all of already you must have covered in yesterday and day before yesterday's sessions, that it is basically the type of the uh, technology which is employed, where the land is there, what are the resources which is required, and all that aspects, they are coming under the technical and economic viability. As far as the management is concerned, again, there are certain issues which we will see from the risk angles, what we have to taken care of. And this is the basic beginning of the appraisal part. So this, again, I am repeating, the risk is as and when you are receiving this thing, you should have your own study. Don't simply depend upon the IM or the information memorandum or the project report, whatever you may call, that has been submitted to you. So when anybody is structuring the projects, there are certain key points which are very, very important. And all of us, we should know before we are going to the today's topic. These are the key project parties, key contractual parties, key transaction documents and contracts, key project documents, financing documents, capturing cash flow, waterfall mechanism. What is all these contracts are there, they should be the part of the structuring the project. Whenever you are doing the appraisal, you must know basically when we say the project structure, so we can summarize in this way that this is the project and it is floated by SPV. This is a special purpose vehicle and it is formed only for this purpose. It cannot undertake any other activity. It will be taking only the activity if it is a power project, if it is a road project, road project, if it is a manufacturing, it will be done manufacturing. And normally SPV is formed by the number of players. They may be technically sound, they may be financially sound, or they are already in this area, and all of them and they are coming together and forming a SPV normally, and these are known as the promoters, that is the sponsors. Within the information memorandum, there will be a mention of that who will be doing setting up the project. So normally all these big projects, they are done by EPC, right? They will be, this will be a type of they are doing the engineering, designing the projects, they will be doing all the procurements, they will be doing the constructions. So what we say in the other terms, previously turnkey project, that means they will be starting from the scratch and then they will be creating the whole setup, and that will be this responsibility of the EPC. So there may be certain guarantors or there may not be certain guarantors. Then there will be a lenders. There may be a lenders, domestic lenders, there may be international lenders, depending on the project, what is the value of the project, what is basically the type of the project, if it is an oil refinery or if it is airports or ports. So depending upon that, then there are the requirement for the operations and the maintenance, and then there will be a operation and maintenance contractors separately, then off takers, what is the market. The role of the government is very, very important in all such things, basically because the what is the status of the economy, what is the push of the government, what is the push of the government, and which particular economic activity or which particular economic sector is driving the economy in the days to come. So all these things, then who are the suppliers of the technology, supplier of the other resources. So these are all part of the, these are known as the key players as far as the project is concerned. Now within here, there are certain financial agreements. Common loan agreement, all of us are aware. in such cases, you may be finding that there are not structured loan agreements. And these agreements normally they are from case to case basis. They are designed by the legal companies, and for example, in case if it is a road project, so National Highway Authority uh, basically they will be giving a set of documents, or in case if they are not giving the set of documents, so they will be basically approving each and every clause of that documents before they are executed. Then among the creditors there is an inter-credit agreement, and then there are certain insurance guarantees. Normally these type of the agreements, they are known as the financial agreements. And then there are the agreements which are related with the project contracts. Concession agreement, I think in the very first session, Mr. Kalia has also told about the concessional agreement, what we mean by the concession agreement and the support agreement. And then there is a shareholding agreement that is among the promoters, confidentiality agreements, EPC contracts, state support, offtake agreements, O and suppliers contract agreements. So these are the different type of the agreements. You need not to go all these agreements per se, but we will see that in all these areas, what are the risks, who will be taking that risk, and how that risk can be mitigated in the following slides. But when it is a financial agreement, these are the agreements we have to be very, very careful, because as per the RBI and as per the various government agencies also, whenever there is a project, unless the financial closure is not happening, no, first the financial closure has to take place. So financial closure means that there is a total tie-up of the resources, uh, and the whosoever has to provide the equity, what will be the structure of the loan, uh, debt. Debt need not to be, it is a bank loan, it can be the capital market bonds also, that the company, in case if they want to raise, in case if they want to raise the IPO. So all that things, when all such things are in place, so then we say it is a financial closure. And only once the financial closure has taken place, then we will be going for the execution of documents. Before that, we are not doing the execution of documents. In the execution of the, whenever there is an inter-credit agreement, there should be a very clear that who is taking how much share, right? So that all that thing should be very, very clear. Now coming to the type of risk. Type of risk can be at the development phase, at the construction, at the operational phase. There can be due to the markets, there can be due to revenue, economic environment, political, legal and regulatory, non-political force majeure risk, funding risk. Broadly, these are divided in the three parts: pre-implementation stage, implementation stage, and operation stage. Implementation stage is when there is a discussion on setting up the proposal, when the idea is conceived, that is put as a part of the information memorandum, where everything according to the timelines it is decided, when the things will start, who will be doing which activity, and how much will be the total period. Once the construction has taken place, how much time it will take for the trial run, and thereafter if it is successful, so then it will be operation. And in the case of the operations, those who will be taking the supply, who will be the prospective buyers. So all these things, they are decided, and all these phases, these are broadly divided in these three parts. So once these are divided, so let us say at each stage, say at the development phase stage, at the construction stage, what type of the risk is there? My dear friends, you might have seen in the other areas, like the small loans, in the MSME loan, when we talk about the risk management, we are talking about the four components. First component is the identification of risk. Second component is assessment of risk. Third component is monitoring of risk. And fourth component is mitigation of risk. So in the case of the risk management, these are the four components. So we will see here also how that four components in the case of the project finance, they are taken care. So how we will be assessing a risk or how we will be monitoring a risk? First of all, we must know where the risk exists. When we say at the development phase risk, so it is a very broad term. So within this development phase risk, what are the basically risks? Whether it is about the land procurement, whether it is about the clearances, what type of the clearances are required, right? All that things first we will see, and then we will see how this risk they are assessed. Assessment means you are having a rating model in place at your bank. There must be at least 12 to 13 rating models, and few of the rating models they are will be for the project finance. They may be related to the power projects, they may be related to the road projects, they may be related to the manufacturing projects, and then they will be broadly divided into the construction pre pre-implementation stage and the implementation stage, and then there will be a lot of attributes, and there you are going and doing the ratings, and you are coming across whether you are getting what rating, whether that rating is within the hurdle rate or not, right? So what we mean by the hurdle rate, all these things we will be discussing one by one. So when I say pre-implementation risk, so pre-implementation risk is land acquisition, whether the land is owned, whether the land is on lease. If someone is giving on the lease, so what is basically the total period of that lease? What is the total period as per the concessional agreement of that project? And then what will be the total period of your loan? All these things have to be matched in case if the land is on lease. If the land acquisition has taken place and there is a lot of states are involved, so whether that approvals are there or it is still pending. So all these things, they will be coming under the implementation 6. The first risk which we identify, that is the land acquisition. Then there will be obtention of statutory clearances, including the NOC from Ministry of Environment and Forest, and the consent of state governments, consent to set up, approval from the local bodies, key contracts including fuel supply. This is very, very important because in the year 2012-13 we have seen there were a lot of power projects, but there was not a backup agreement that from where they will be getting the raw material or they will be getting the fuel, and certain projects they could not start, and they were, if they were ready to take off, but due to the supply of the fuel that was not there, how the transportation will take place, offtake will be there, EPC contract, who is the EPC contractor? In the case of the EPC contractor, in many cases, particularly in the road projects, you will be finding certain times the companies, they are having their group companies, which are the EPC contractor. So then again, you have to be very, very conscious when such a situation is coming, when the EPC contractor is one of the group company. So then you have to see the track record and separately basically do the analysis, and only that the company is having the EPC contractor is not sufficient. The credential of that company, that is very, very important, because a good part of the cost of project, when you have studied on day 3 about the cost of project and means of finance, you might have seen the hard cost. The hard cost of the total project is normally about 70 to 80% of the total project, and other is the soft cost. So 70 to 80% of the cost, out of that 70 to 80%, about 85% of the cost, that means about 70% of the total project cost is the cost paid to the EPC contractor, right? So it is very, very important the credentials of such contractors and what is their past experience, who and operation and maintenance, etc. Then equity support from the sponsors, financial strength. Again, this is very important. In 2007-2008, I come across a project, and the total cost of the project was 1,000 crore. But you will be surprised to know that the sponsors means the promoters, the key promoters, they were bringing only 25 crores out of 1000. 25 crores, although the equity remaining equity support in the 1000 crore was uh, 200 crores, but the other was to be raised by IPO. Now, for a new project, in case if it is coming in the market and 175 crore out of the 200 crore, it's to be raised by the IPO, then you have to see that the company is very, very strong, and whatever the project they are setting up, the demand of that product will be very, very high. In case if you are not satisfied from that, so then one should wait the IPO to float before you are doing the disbursement. All those sanction may be there. So these are certain things which should be kept in mind. And this was a steel company, of course. So many times you will be coming across this type of the situation also, because in the all big projects, all these things. But at the same time, in case if the IPO is there, so then again you have to see who is the arranger of the IPO, which merchant bankers are there, and whether they are uh, uh, undertaking, underwriting the IPO or not. In case if they are underwriting the IPO, and in case if they the arrangers, merchant bankers, they are very strong, so still we can basically give some consideration. Managerial capabilities of the sponsors, normally this is to be seen. Then technical complexities, appointment of the technical consultants. Many a times in the all the big projects, most of the machinery, that is imported machinery from the various places, maybe China, maybe German, maybe any other European country or USA. So then you have to see that all during that time of the implementation and the setup stage, then how this arrangement will be there, whether their consultants will be coming here or whether they will be coming in periodical visits they will be doing, or what is basically the arrangement, and whether it is the local expertise is there, or that company is having their own local setup which can provide some support in the case of the emergencies. So all these things, they are required to be seen at the level. So these are basically all the risk over a period of time in setting up the projects. Whatever the risk has been identified at the pre-implementation stage, these are the risks. Expertise of the EPC contractors, as I have told you, in many I have come across, particularly in the case of the road projects, they are having their own EPC, one of the group company. So in case of the one of the group company, always basically try to see whether that EPC contractors, they are also asking you for some funding to complete that project. And in case if it is so, whatever the money you are providing to this project, so are you taking care that money should directly go to liquidate our loan rather than giving to the company, or giving to the EPC? Otherwise, it will be a double financing. Or in case if they are asking for some advance payment, so whether our bank only is issuing the guarantee, or they should be asked to bring this guarantee from the other banks. Otherwise, if I have to give the advance and again I have to give the guarantee, so that will not be making any sense. So these are certain technical and operational issues which should be taken care while dealing with such cases. Repute of the equipment supplier for timely supply of the equipment and the quality of the equipment. So this is again a very gray area, and normally only the technical support team uh, can tell you about the credentials of the supplier. But now it is a technology environment, and on the internet there is a lot of information which is available. So before we are basically approving any equipment supplier, we should try to see that what is the reputation of that supplier, to whom other companies they have supplied the equipments, what is their experience regarding this type of the suppliers. So all these things, they are required to be seen at this area, and tie up of the funding, that is the most important thing. that you must have seen in the day 3 sessions in the project finance assessment, the source of finance. There are as many as 8 to 10 source of finances. That is, equity is there, and then there is a raising bond from the market will be there, capital subsidy will be there, there will be a leasing arrangements also, there can be a term loans from the banks also. So there are 8 to 10 type of the different sources. So try to see the quality of that, whether all that sources timely they will be able to release the funds. Sanctioning the fund is one thing, but releasing the fund and timely releasing the fund is the another thing. So timely releasing the fund will be there or not, again this is to be seen. So as a credit risk officer, although we are receiving an information memorandum, this is what I was trying basically to share with you. But at the same time, whatever is provided in the information memorandum, we should not be carried away by that. We should have the analysis, our own analysis, by going through each and every activity and the analysis by that. So what is the mitigations? Once we have identified this risk, the second thing will be that of the assessment. So in the case of the assessment, in the each parameters, we are giving some number. For example, in case of the obtention of the statutory clearance, so you will be finding most of the clearances already that has been arranged, or they are in the process of arranging. So whether they should be given 5 out of 5 or 3 out of 5, 3 out of 5 or 2 out of 5, or is so far they have not applied, or they have yet to apply it. So how much you will be giving? So all that things, they are well documented and well defined in their rating, in your rating models. So when you will be basically rating this type of the projects, internal rating I am talking about. So please take care of all these things. What is the equity support from the sponsors? Few of the illustrations I am providing you also, and that will be helping you to know how the risk ratings are done or how the risk assessment is done. So once that is done, so monitoring part, before that, what is the mitigations? In the case of the mitigations, comprehensive appraisal depending on the strength, experience of promoters, critically of each parameter, and stipulation of the pre-disbursement conditions. Normally, you might have seen in the pre-disbursement conditions, a lot of basically conditions we are imposing, we are stipulating. So it is only basically because there, out of these, there are many things which are in transit, which has not been completed, where bankers are not satisfied. So that is why all that conditions are done, and these are all known as the mitigations. Moving further, there are certain statutory compliances. This is very important. These 3 slides are very, very important. It will be giving you an idea in each and every case what type of the statutory compliances you are required. NOC from the local authorities, clearance from Pollution Control Board. If units want to enjoy benefits like concessional duty, government subsidy incentive, SSI registration, etc. Non-agriculture certificate, very, very important in case of the land, if construction is proposed on the land which is agriculture, and NOC from the electricity board if required. Then there is a specific licenses. If it is explosive manufacturing and handling, Chief Inspector of Explosives, mineral extraction, permission from the district collector, power looms, registration with the textile commissioner, pharmaceutical, approval of Food and Drug Administration Office, food processing, etc., registration from the local FPO governed by the Ministry of Food Processing. These are, and apart from that, there are certain laws which will be applicable on all all such units, and they may be related to the whatever is applicable. These are the various laws, but whatever is applicable in your case. Factory Acts 1948, Minimum Wage Act 1948, Payment of Wages 1948, EPF, Workman Compensation, Payment and Gratuity, Employees State Insurance Act, Payment of Bonus, Shop and Establishment, Trade Unions, and Industrial Dispute Act. So these are the various laws and regulations which I am providing you handy, so that as and when it is coming, and in case if you are doing the fresh sanctions or the review of that, so you must know that there are some statutory requirements which are required to be complied with, and whether the company is doing this or not. So having done that, I am giving you few illustrations. These are by way of the illustrations only. Before I am coming to the mitigation part, how we are assessing the risk. So having identified the risk, construction risk, for example, clearances, all necessary clearances, if they are already obtained, 5 out of 5. If they are final stage of obtaining all clearances, 4, that means some letter has been issued to them. What is the evidence for that? That you have to satisfy clearance obtained partially, majority of the clearances yet to be obtained, most significant relevant clearances yet to be obtained. So these are basically how we are assessing the risk. So 1 is the very high risk and 5 is the low risk. Same way, stabilization, time required for stabilizing, complexity involved is extremely low, time required for stabilization, moderately low. According to these parameters, we try to judge like how project is very complex, project is not at all, it is not complex, lead complex project. So this is why how we are giving the marks. Expected balance projection duration less than 6 months, 6 months to 12 months, 12 to 24, 24 to 36, more than 36. More is the time, more is the risk. That is the key. Expected time overrun less than 6 months. If it is less than 6 months, 5 out of 5. If it is 6 months to 12 months, 4. 12 months, 24. It all depends upon the complexity of the project. For example, in case if the Ahmedabad Bombay bullet train is going, there will be a particular time period, and due to the various approvals, permissions from the 2 states and the pathway through, in case if there is any issues in all these cases, and time to time, these all things have to be reviewed, and accordingly the rating has to be modified. Funding risk, whether the total funds are tied up, majority of funds are tied up, minor hurdles expected for tie-up of the funds, hurdle delay expected for a tie-up of the funds. Normally, in such cases, as a banker, as a lender, we are allowing only if all the funds are tied up. So financial flexibility, in case tomorrow if there is a requirement of the funds, there may be a cost overrun, there may be some external basically circumstances which are beyond the control of the promoter, which are beyond the control of all the stakeholders, including the lenders, and something is happening. So in such cases, if there is a cost overrun or a cost increase of the project cost, so whether they will be in a position to arrange the funds or not, all these things that will be under the financial flexibility, and accordingly that will be rated. So now, once the pre-implementation period, which is more on the basis of the assumptions, now we are moving to the implementation stage. So in the case of the implementation stage, still this is a stage which is having some idea, some scientific approach, because there is a PERT and CPM, PERT chart and CPM requirement. So all the projects, they are basically having a time schedule. In 1 month, this activity will be completed. In 2 months, this activity will be completed. In 6 months, so with the passage of time, we try to see whether the implementation is as per the schedule, or the performance of the project implementation is as per schedule or not. For that purpose, again, I am telling you, as a credit officers on the desk, we are not competent. So all the banks or the consortium or the syndicate arrangement, we are appointing the internal lender engineer, what is known as the lenders engineer. Internal lender engineer is appointed. He will be submitting his report, whatever he has been asked, whether on the monthly basis, whether on the quarterly basis, or whether on the any periodicity which is decided according to the proposals. So the at the implementation stage, all that things will be done. Experience repute of the EPC contractors, supporting infrastructure, timely supply of equipments, government policies, particularly the political risk, and the force majeure. Force majeure is that there may be sometimes certain circumstances because of the natural calamity or any other such things, because of the strike, because of the war, because of the riots, because of the floods, because of the earthquake. If anything is happened which we say as a act of God, which is beyond the control of any party which is involved. So in such cases, in case if there is a loss, risk means loss. If there is a loss, then how it will be made good of? So mitigation means liquidity damages proportionate to delay performance guarantee from the equipment supplier. So there are many a times basically from the EPC contractor also, whenever all the government projects, whenever they have been allocated to any of the contractors, there is a system of the tender floating or the bid, and then there is a performance guarantees, and then there is other type of the guarantees due to which it is ensured that in case if there is a loss to the company, so that loss will be good made up by the EPC. So now we will see how this type of the losses are there and how these are basically allocated. So post implementation risk are sponsor experience, operational teams expertise, credentials of the operations and the maintenance contractors, demand and supply scenario, technological obsolescence. Many a times you are basically deploying a particular technology and very fast this technology is changing. Regulatory framework in the banks also, we have seen that on the basically whatever the core banking solutions we are doing. So every time the requirement is increasing now, since we are moving to the digital banking. With the movement of the digital banking, there is a lot of change in the technology. So very soon the previous technology is getting obsolete, and the new technology is taking place. So in the case of the pure post implementation risk, all these things they have to be taken care of. So mitigation of implementation risk. Now we will be coming to the mitigation part. Availability of the adequate land and right of way to be ensured. All key clearances, including the environment cleansing from the Ministry of the Environment and the Forest, is to be ensured, and project cost to be formed up with the enforceable machinery supply EPC contract. And then the construction phase risk. Mitigation construction risk phase means fixed price, fixed time, turnkey EPC contract. So we are giving a particular time within the 2 years it will be completed, or 30 months it will be completed. This will be the total cost, and then there is a there are certain other provisions also for the increase of the cost under circumstances, and one has to stick to that. So single point responsibility of the EPC contractor is there. If there is liquidity damage for the delay, so that has to be made good by the EPC, and for that purpose all the times we are taking the performance guarantees for performance guarantee from the EPC contractors. And that is why I told you that in case if the EPC contractor and that your party is from the same bank, so please try to avoid this type of the situation. They should be from some other bank. Experienced contractors, proven technology. These are the few mitigations which we take while doing the appraisal. And in the case of the mitigation of the construction phase, another is the completion guarantee by the sponsors, the EPC contractor unable to provide turnkey solution to acceptable price. Review by independent engineer to monitor construction. So monitoring is done by the independent engineer, and risk is allocated to the contractor and SPV. So that means for all these liquidity losses, for all the liquidity damages due to the delay, due to the cost overrun or due to the time overrun, in case if there is any loss, who will be making good of that? Either the contractor or the borrower, SPV. So lender will not be taking this loss. So that has to be ensured as far as through the various covenants, through the various terms and conditions. So moving further, mitigation of construction risks phases. Now when it comes to the delay, again, there will be a possibility whether delay is by the default of the contractor or by change in law. In case if it is a default, whose default is there? It is basically because of the state utility, state governments, or the any other such agencies, or it is a construction contractor whose default is there. And for that, what the mitigations we are doing. So it is a summary of what so far we have discussed. If it is a change of law, in the case of the change of law, it will be extension of the time limits and the cost overrun. Cost overrun has to be there, but in case if there has been some change, so in that case, there is no alternative but to allow the extension of the time in such cases. So moving further, so mitigation of construction phases, if it is a cost overrun, so there are many options which is available. Change in the cost of inputs in case if it is so. So again, all these things will be for the purpose of the mitigation. It will be a cost to the EPC contractor, because it will not be a cost to the company or cost to the lender. If it is a macroeconomic changes, so macroeconomic changes, in case if we are saying it may be interest rate change, or it may be exchange rate movements, or it will be inflation. So in all these things, if it is an interest rate change, so then fixed rate debts. In case if it is exchange rate, so then of course hedging is the option all the times. As a banker, we are doing that. And in case it's inflation, so then again the fixed price contracts are there, or there may be a pass through contracts by which the buyers may be availing this thing. So if it is a legal changes, whether it is a change in law, change in taxes, change in permits, so all these things basically increasing the cost, and that may be added to the capital cost if it is happening. So mitigation of the construction phase risk, performance shortfall, installed capacity less than the ordered, heat rate above guarantee rate, and the other defaults. All these things which are technical in nature, again they are at the cost of the EPC contractors. Now we are coming to the mitigation of the operation phase risk. And now in the case of the operation phase risk, what the risk may be that the long-term fuel supply is not there. There is a shortage of the fuel supply. There is no quota for the fuel supply. That will be there. So independent expert certificate regarding adequacy of the reserves, for how much days reserves are there, supply of the pay provisions, dual fuel capability. Many plants now they are working on the dual fuel capabilities. For example, in case if they are the thermal or the gas based, so coal based and the gas based, in case if the coal is not available, they can run on the gas, or if they are gas based, if gas is not there, they can run on the coal. Giving example of the power, long-term fuel transportation agreements. So all these things at the operation phase, that has to be taken care, and these are all risk allocated mainly to the contractor and to the suppliers. So they will be providing the guarantees for all these things, and accordingly the risk will be addressed. So mitigation operation is, for example, power load factor is shortfall. Whatever, if it is a 70 or 75, if it is not coming, so then one has to find out the reason, and in case accordingly the risk will be identified, and then it is to be seen in the various cases whether it will be to the lender, sorry, it will be never to the lender, whether it will be to the contractor, or whether it will be O&M operations and maintenance contractor, or to the sponsors SPV. So that has to be established. So increased cost, these are the few things which are the various risks in the areas of the project finance. And coming to the market risk, related offtakes, sellability of the product, lower than the anticipated capacity utilization due to the low demand, long-term offtake agreement. Frankly speaking, all these things are there in the theory, but in case if the market trend is changing. So it is very difficult basically to arrest this type of the risk or to mitigate this type of the risk. So this is purely depending upon the some product modifications or some basically concessions to be provided on the products and by increasing the capacity utilizations. So if it is why there will be a less capacity utilization, basically because there is no demand. So one has to go for the reasons why the demand is not there. What is the advantage to the competitors which they are not having, and in case if they have to get that advantage, so how they will be making good of that. So again, that will be, this is the most complicated risk in the project finance. Economic environment, again, there are many units, not now, because now the RBI has made it compulsory that in case of the environment, it is about the economic environment. In the case of the economic environment, it all depends upon at what stage your economy is, whether it is in the recessionary mode or it is in the growth mode. You might have seen in the case nowadays, not much of the projects they are taking place unless there is a push from the government and there is a budgetary allocation for such type of the projects, only that is taking place. Otherwise, since the economy is in a cooling on the recessionary mode, so not much they are there. So once this type of the risk is there, again the project is impacted a lot. So again, there is a very difficult basically to manage this type of the risk. Political, legal, and regulatory risk, we have seen ourselves during our time in the telecommunication sector because of the cancel of the licenses, and because in the when all the power sector coal licenses, they were allocation licenses when they were cancelled. So all that things we have seen very closely, and what was the impact. Most of the projects in that period which they came into existence, they become NPAs and non-performing, and it is taking time to revive these type of the projects with the change of the political, legal, and the regulatory framework. Mitigation declared policy of the government may be, again, it is as a theory. Basically, at our time, we never thought that in the case of the telecommunication, there will be a Supreme Court judgment and a policy which was in place since 1992. All of a sudden, in the 2013, that will be challenged, and that will be Supreme Court will be deciding against that policy. Nobody can thought that the various government during these 2 decades they were doing in a particular fashion, and all of a sudden that licenses were cancelled. So many times it becomes very difficult to foresee the political risk and how to mitigate. Very difficult. But these are the risks which are normally very rare, but they are very severe also in nature as far as the losses are concerned. So again, moving forward, non-political force major risk, as I have told you, these are known as the act of gods, and normally by way of the insurance policies, these are the risks which are required to be transferred, not to the any party of the proposal, but to the outside. So events not under the control of the project participants, non-harmonization of the force, and advance or loss, narrow identification of the most vulnerable, or so this all has to be taken care of. Just a minute, please. Hello. Yes. Can you call me after some time? I am taking class. After about 1 hour. After 1 hour. Sorry for this. So likewise, then there are funding risk and mitigation. This is the most important from the point of view of the bankers. So far, there are certain risks which we should know what can be the mitigation, and in case if this type of the risk is there, so what is the situation, because the political risk or the regulatory risk, they are such in nature, they are systemic in nature. Whenever they will be coming in the industry, everybody will be impacted by that. So normally in such cases, mitigation is provided by the government, like the COVID-19, certain relaxations and certain concessions that is provided by the RBI only, by the government only. So in that case, that is the only mitigation. Otherwise, at the standalone basis, there is not much scope of any mitigation. But yes, in the case of the funding risk and the mitigation, non-availability of the sufficient fund to complete the project. So this is an area which I have seen very closely, particularly in the power sectors. So many a times, due to any reason, in case if there is a loss to the company during the implementation stage, and company there is a time overrun, and whenever there will be a time overrun, there is bound to be a cost overrun also, or otherwise if there is a cost overrun. So in such cases, how the funding will take place? So again, that will be very challenging. Mitigation funding risk is shares subscription agreements, financing agreement with the lender with any conditions. In spite of the fact that all these agreements we are having, but still many a times we have seen at the time of the need, sponsors and the promoters, they are showing them helpless in many cases. So as such, the support is coming from the lenders only. But however, one has to be very careful in such a situations whenever you are allowing the concessions. And then again, there is a mechanism when the project during the implementation, whatever the funds basically that has been provided, there should be a complete monitoring. Now we are on the monitoring part. There should be a complete monitoring of the flow of that funds. Whenever offtake is taking place, then again there should be a monitoring of the funds, and for that purpose we are doing a waterfall arrangement. So waterfall arrangement, it is an agreement which is done with the borrower, and in this case the priority is given to the operating expenses first. Once the operating expenses they are met, so then we are opening the escrow accounts or the trust and retention accounts. Both are same in nature. So if we are opening escrow accounts, so first we allow for the operating expenses. So then we allow payment of the senior debt. So senior debt, those who are basically required to be first adjusted in the case of the liquidation. Then it will be the subordinate debts. Then whatever is left, then we will be providing some reserves for the future unseen period when the company will not be in position to generate the funds. So what we do, we create the DSRA, debt service reserve account. You might have seen in the case of the cost of finance, cost of project and source of finance, we are keeping a cushion for DSRA. That may be for the 6 months payment, repayment of installment and interest, or maybe 1 quarter, or maybe 1 year, depending upon project to project. So right from the beginning, through the capital, we are keeping a provision, and as during the lifetime of the loan, we keep this account, then maintenance reserve account, and then whatever left is, that will be for the equity distribution. So strictly, this is something which has to be require a very proper monitoring by the lenders, and whosoever is the lead banker, normally it is their responsibility to do this. In summary, these are the various risks what we have just now basically discussed. What is the risk, which are the parties, and how the mitigation will take place. So this is a broad idea in summary about the various risk, operating risk, withdrawal, pre-completion, land availability, time overrun, cost overrun, funding, who are the parties, those who will be bearing this risk, and what is the mitigation. Every time it will not be quantified. Many times it will be very subjective also, like the operating risk sponsors their experience. If it is a management withdrawal, there are the key persons, those who, when we were lended them, it was basically because of them. For example, in case if I tell you the project which I was telling you, where the 25 crore out of 1000 crore was the only contribution from the uh, promoters. So in that, one of the promoter was having experience of 25 years in a leading company of India in the steel. Now, in case if tomorrow he is withdrawing, so then the project will be in problem. So this type of the mitigations we try to take. And post completion, fuel supply, fuel transportation. In nutshell, these charts are prepared to see that as a you can say the checklist should be at your table to see that at this particular point, what is the risk, which is the party which will be responsible for this, and what can be the possible mitigation. So these three slides, they are more on this. And then credit enhancement for the residual risk, government guarantees, trust and retention account through which all the cash flow companies are routed. And cash flow, government guarantees, we are saying in case if these are the public, this public-private participation accounts. Otherwise, in all such cases, the government guarantee will not be there. So trust and retention account will be there, for waterfall mechanism will be there, debt service reserve account will be there, lender substitutions right will be there. Whenever lender substitution right means whenever we want in the management, we can have our own people there, we can have the management rights. Lender engineer will be there to monitoring the physical and the financial progress. Apart from that, there may be a chartered engineers, chartered accountants also from the lender side. So cash sweep in case of the higher revenue generation, all these things, they are will be coming under the credit enhancement of the residual risk. So with this, these are certain important terminologies which are used. COD, commercial operation date, commercial commencement of the date, completion certificate, concession period, force majeure clause, all these things, these are used. And issues what consideration is escalation of the cost of project, time escalation, who is the EPC contractor. In nutshell, again, this is a checklist which will be helping you whenever you are doing the appraisal. So have a checklist whether all these points you are satisfied about them or not. And then issue what considerations. Conclusion is that these are all indicative lists again. And most of from the past experience, it is seen that these type of the risk identifiers are there. This may vary from project to project, country to country, place to place, sector to sector. Banks are required to identify, study, evaluate the risk. If so, to what extent and in what terms, and proper risk mitigation steps. Events and the conditions may be prescribed. This is all about the risk on the project finance. Again, it is an emerging area. It is a new area. As I told you in my very first session, that every proposal is coming to you. It is an opportunity for the bank. It is an opportunity for you to create value for the bank. But at the same time, it is also responsibility that we should upgrade our skills, because the time is a constraint. Otherwise, on each slide and on each point, I can basically discuss for us together with the live examples that how the things have come, and how that it was dealt, and how we come out of that, or how where we were stuck basically and we could not find any way. I can discuss, but since the time is the constraint, so in nutshell, I will be submitting that every new request from any side, it is basically an opportunity. But when we are basically leveraging on such opportunities, we have to be very, very conscious about what is the loan policy of the bank, what is basically the direction of the bank, and within that direction, within the loan policy and within the best practices which is prevailing in the industry, we should follow, and we should come. It should not be that we should do it and carried away by the information memorandum it is submitted by someone, and just cut and paste and do the justice. That will not be a justice. So with this, I conclude my session on this risk assessment. And I don't know whether we have to take the question answer immediately or Mr. Sansi will be first addressing and thereafter. So I am handing over to Mr. Ishwar for the further proceedings.
Yeah, thank you, Mahajanji, for that wonderful session and a very informative session. 1 minute, I will take one call and then continue. Just excuse me for 1 minute. Yeah. So I once again thank Mahajanji for that beautiful session that he has covered almost everything which a bank official has to see in a project finance. And this PowerPoint definitely will be shared because that will be of very use. So see, the program going forward is that now up to 5:30, we will respond to your Q&A, your questions, if any, we will take. 5:30 to 6, we will allow you to attend the pre-assessment test, which already it is, Mr. Vikas told me that you can all access on the, that you can access and start replying. So that half an hour slot you will be having for replying to that assessment test. 6 o'clock we will start our guest for the day will be coming, Mr. Kishore Sansi, ex-CMD of Vijaya Bank, ex-MD and CEO of Vijaya Bank. So he will be interacting with you for about half an hour. And after his interaction, ED madam from your bank, she will be addressing the valedictory session. So this is how for the next 1 or 2 hours is planned. Okay. So next 10 to 15 minutes, we will devote on our any questions. Only thing I want to just tell you that it is not enough that we have the theoretical understanding of the entire framework of the working capital assessment or project financing, term loan assessment, fund flow analysis. Very important is that sometimes beyond these, we have to have our application of mind And that gradually comes over with the experience. As you handle more and more proposals, you start gaining that confidence, and you also start getting that skills, that what are the issues that normally a proposal throws up which you need to address. If I say, if I give you one or two examples, see, in one of the cases, you had huge sundry creditors. The borrower deliberately requested all the sundry creditors to apply for the share application money in the company. So you can imagine the liability is shifting from where to where. Being a trade creditor, sundry creditors, these creditors have applied for the share application money, and this sundry creditor was converted into share application money. So what is the impact on the balance sheet? The balance sheet becomes very rosy. The sundry creditors goes down, and your share application is part of your P&W. It becomes part of your net worth because it is your long-term sources increasing. And thereafter, it is not that he was very sincere in such move, but he again, once his purpose is achieved, when he has given to the bank very rosy 31st March, rosy balance sheet, rosy CMA figures where sundry creditors are low, current ratio is very attractive, NWC increases, net worth increases, then after the March closing, 31st March, then he refunds the share application, refunded the share application money. Now more stringency has come for this trade application money, but I was talking about 10, 15 years back. So imagine what would have happened when you are refunding the share application money. So your net worth goes down. So temporarily, borrower has done this financial engineering. Apparently, if you see the balance sheet, everything is fine because the net worth has increased, share sundry creditors has reduced, current ratio is very good. Okay, so MPBF goes up. So we have to be very careful when we are classifying the balance sheet data into CMA form. Mechanically, it may look very good, like the example I gave you. Mechanically, the CMA forms will look very healthy. But in reality, do you agree that this rosy picture is a reality? No, it was a financial engineering done by the borrower. Second, one more example I will give you, how the CMA data, one has to be very careful. Beyond the academic knowledge, beyond the theoretical knowledge, one has to apply their mind. Is, as Mahajanji was telling, that the commercial operation date. Commercial operation date means before the commercial operation date, you can debit your revenue expenditure to the capital account. That becomes a part of the project finance, project cost, and it is financed by the bank with the 75-25 whatever ratio with the margin. In one instance, a borrowing company which was manufacturing the electrical wires, they have started production of the copper wire, they were selling the copper wire in the market. Almost 70% of the sales were achieved by selling the copper wires, but still they were saying that commercial operation date is not declared, and they were debiting the revenue expenditure to the capital account, means project cost. If you are unduly debiting the revenue expenditure to the capital account, what is the impact? The impact is that your profitability goes up because your P&L, you are showing you are not loading those expenses to your P&L, rather it is going to the capital account. But to what extent he was justified? When we questioned him that your product is selling 70% of the sales target you have achieved, then he says that we have not yet insulated the copper wire with that plastic. You get the plastic granules and then you insulate that wire, copper wire. Then he says that this copper wire is not yet insulated, so we are treating it as a revenue, as a capital expenditure. We said there has to be justification when you are achieving 70% of your sales. how can you say that it is not a commercial operations and you can continue with the revenue expenditure being debited to the capital expenditure? So if we overlook, then you will find that entire balance sheet, entire P&L is misrepresented. And based on that, we will make our CMA classification. Based on that, he will get NTBF. So these are the certain very important things which are required in the context of the application of mind when we are sitting. But as I said, the more and more when you are taking up more and more proposals in your hand, more and more, this comes with you are able to look at the balance sheet and the CMA with that additional wisdom. So this is the brief thing, and the sum and substance of my saying is that you need to be cautious also. I would, with this statement, I would never say that we should always have a doubt and suspicion on the borrowers. No, but at the same time, we must be having this kind of a clear understanding of the figures which is appearing in the balance sheet and what we have to discuss with the borrower and how to question him on the inconsistencies if any time you come across. Okay, so with this brief explanation of what I mean, that you need to be extra careful when we are analyzing the CMA data or even reading the balance sheet. It's very important. We must read carefully the balance sheet. We must read all the disclosures there, because after the quantitative part, you have so much qualitative information in the balance sheet, and you must read, because that information, the disclosures given at the after the balance in the balance sheet after the financial figures, those disclosures are very important, and that gives you a very good indication. Similarly, one point, that turnover of the top management. If the top management people are frequently leaving the company, resigning from the company, you must inquire that what is the reason, because there may be some problem in the offing that the top management people are leaving the company. So these are some of the things that the academic interpretation of the CMA data or the inferences would not tell, but these are the things that we develop over a period of time when we analyze the balance sheet, and the experience gives us these all wisdom. Okay, so with this, you may ask any questions. As I said, at 5:30 we will allow you to attempt your pre-assessment test. In the next 10-15 minutes, you can raise any questions. Me and Mahajanji will be responding to you if you have any questions. And you have been very wonderful participants. I could see that from the questions you have been asking in the chat box last 4 days. I'm happy that, appreciate that very good questions you have put in the chat box. It definitely indicates that all of you were very attentive to the sessions. You were very keen on getting the PPT, getting the keen on the material for this training. And I will request you that definitely these material will always be with you, because Mr. Vikas has been sending you all these, and Ashutosh have been sending you all this material on your WhatsApp or mail, whatever. So these are, I consider the way our senior faculty, who are the senior executives, chief general manager rank, worked in public sector banks, heading the corporate departments, with their lot of experience and wisdom, they have prepared these PPTs, and I consider them, they contain a wealth of knowledge on the project financing, and keep them, preserve them, share with your other colleagues, so those who have missed it can also read it and they can also be benefited with it. Okay, so with this, I request, if the participants have any questions, they can raise before we allow you to start your pre-assessment test.
We have unmuted everyone. You can.
Yeah, all of you are unmuted. You can speak. All of you are unmuted.
There is one question from Deepa Modak actually. What precaution to be taken when giving loan to trust?
Let me answer this question.
And interact with Rajesh Mahajan, sir, please.
Deepa, in this such cases, first of all, we have to see that in the case of the trust, in their whether as per the rules of the trust, whether they are allowed to take the loan or not, whether they are allowed to take the borrowings or not. So in case if they are permitted for the borrowing, so then it is to be seen that what will be the source of repayment. In many cases, in case if these are the charitable trust, so then there may be a donations. So donation cannot be considered as a basically a source, confirmed source for the repayment. So how this asset will be put to the use, and in case if you feel that the trust, the relationship of the trust with the bank is very sound and you have to give the loan, so in such cases, the key trustees, they should give the guarantee, even if it is a uh, uh, source of the funding is from the donations. So these are the basically precautions which has to be taken, because the trust will not be in the commercial use of the asset. So as such, these are the few precautions to be taken in case of the trust accounts.
And also you have to see whether it is a public trust or private trust. In case of a public trust, there is a more responsibility cast on the bank to ensure that the trust money is not misutilized. Vikas ji, I had one question that all of them can access the website and answer the questions. Can you explain them? What is the how did you put the questions?
Sir, they need to register themselves by giving their
just
first name, last name, and email ID only.
एक्सप्लेन कर दीजिए विकास जी, उनको एक बार सो दैट जिन लोगों को पता नहीं है उनको पता हो जाएगा.
एक लिंक आप लोगों को गया होगा, फ्लेक्सी क्विज का एक लिंक गया होगा आप लोगों के पास में. जैसे ही आप लोग उस लिंक पे क्लिक करेंगे, आपका फर्स्ट नेम, लास्ट नेम और ईमेल आईडी पूछेगा. जैसे कि आप वो लोग आप ये 3 डिटेल्स वहां पे देंगे, रजिस्टर करेंगे, इमीडिएटली आप लोगों के पास में वो क्वेश्चन एक्सेसिबल हो जाएंगे. मल्टीपल चॉइस क्वेश्चंस हैं उसमें, ट्रू फॉल्स के क्वेश्चंस हैं. आपको 30 क्वेश्चंस उसमें जो कि आपको अटेम्प्ट करने हैं. और जब आप लोग वो अटेम्प्ट कर लेंगे 30 क्वेश्चंस, तो जब आप पास करेंगे, एक पास क्राइटेरिया, हमने एक पासिंग क्राइटेरिया 70% मार्क्स का रखा हुआ है. जैसे ही आप लोग वो 70% पासिंग क्राइटेरिया को पास कर लेंगे, तो एक सर्टिफिकेट आप लोगों को ऑलरेडी आप डाउनलोड भी कर सकते हैं और आपको वो मेल भी आ जाएगा.
और क्या उनको आंसर्स, कैन दे alter the answers? Do they have any?
Once you finish the this test, you can access the answers also. आप अपना सेल्फ असेसमेंट भी कर सकते हैं कि क्या आपका कैसा रहा है ट्रेनिंग.
ओके, एक और लास्ट क्वेश्चन रह गया है. कैन LC be issued in part for purchase of material and part for installation of the same? Can see it depends on the purpose for which the LC is issued. महाजन जी आप म्यूट हैं. महाजन जी आप म्यूट हैं.
Now, when you say the purchase of raw material and purchase of installation, now I am having a question. For this question, who is supplying the machine and what about the payment of the machine? Normally, the installation charges as per the accounting process, they are the part of the cost of the machine. So I am not having a clarity on this, because you are using the word raw material. If the material is a machine, so it will be the part of the cost. So in that case, a full amount LC will be issued for the procurement of machine as well as the installation. But if it is for the raw material and installation, as far as the installation is concerned, as far as installation is concerned, as such, no such guarantees are issued.
Yeah, I request that the participants should themselves unmute it, because this otherwise there will be vibrations uh, and there will be disturbance, so that you will be able to hear what Mahajanji is saying. Okay, Mahajanji, please continue.
Alka, can you be very specific just by putting exactly what is required? Because your question is, can LC be issued in part for purchase of material? Material means raw material or machinery.
ಎರಡು ಸರಿ ಹಾಕಿದ್ವಿ ಪ್ಲಸ್ ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ಕಾಪಿ ನನಗೂ ಹಾಕ್ತಾರೆ ಪರ್ಸನಲ್ ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಸ್ಕ್ರೀನ್ ಶಾಟ್ ಕಳಿಸ್ತೀನಿ ಸರ್.
See, apparently it looks that she means raw material only, because if it is a part of the capital equipment, the question doesn't arise here. So she is considering whether it is raw material partly and partly capital goods. So I think the vendors will be different, suppliers will be different. So the question seems to be.
I am not very clear that from where the machine has been procured and why the installation is from someone else. So this point is not clear to me.
Yeah, clarification is required. Anyway, there seems to be no other question, and participants can start attempting the questions for the pre-assessment test. And please remember to be here for the lecture by Sri Sansi ji at 6 p.m. Definitely he will be joining. So keep your login intact. 6 p.m. be available for the special guest lecture by Sri Kishore Sansi ji, ex-MD and CEO of Vijaya Bank. It will be very useful interaction, followed by the valedictory by Madam Mani Meklai, Executive Director of Canara Bank. Okay, so you can continue your attempting the questions now. Vikas ji, you can tell them that what is the time up to which you have given them this, that site will be open.
It is open till from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m.
Yeah, so 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. that will be open, and you can try on that. And but we ensure that 6:05 maximum you must be on your video audio link with for listening to Mr. Sansi's lecture. Okay. Any questions on that? On the test part, any clarifications? आपका माइक सब अनम्यूट किया गया है. You can speak also. You can speak and ask. अगर आपको क्वेश्चन आंसर अटेम्प्ट करने में या एक्सेस ऑन करने में you are having any issue, you can also speak. Okay.
Link not yet received, sir.
Link, Vikas ji, can you respond? That link is not received, they say.
Unable to receive the link.
Just now shared it in group.
It is shared in the group, Vikas is saying. The link is shared already on the WhatsApp also. Flexi quiz on the WhatsApp, it is shared. Flexi quiz. Hope you are seeing that in your WhatsApp.
No, sir, I am not getting the link.
You are not in the group.
Seems that, sir, because somebody has sent me the link through WhatsApp, which I am not able to open.
You can request any of your colleague who are in the group, they can send it to you.
So they are forwarded, but it is not opening.
It is not opening.
Yeah, because it is
Because
not appearing as a link. It is appearing as a text.
It is not opening, sir. Link is not working.
1 minute, I will ask my people. But I am seeing that it is very clearly opening in my mobile phone.
No, in my
Just
case,
now I
it
clicked
has
on
come
the
as a
link.
text.
Just
It
now
has
I
come as
clicked
a
on the
text.
link, and it is
No,
opening.
the message is forwarded by somebody to me through WhatsApp, but it is not appearing as a link. It is appearing as a text. That's why I am not getting the link.
On my
Same
mobile
here.
phone, in one click, it opened in one click. See, it is
Yeah, but it is not appearing as a link, link, sir. It is appearing as a text. That's why it is not opening.
okay.
So
Vikas
let
ji,
me
Yes,
request to
sir.
Mr. Vikas to confirm that number is added.
Just now I've shared a link on the chat everyone and WhatsApp. Just now I've shared a link.
So have you added our number?
Sir, that we are doing, but you can start just by clicking this link, sir.
Sir, I doubt whether the numbers are added in the group or not because I
Numbers
haven't
are not
received
added,
any.
sir.
Sir, madam, that we are doing, you can start giving this test by clicking this link, which has been shared by Omkar Srivastava ji or by me. In the
on the screen in the chat box, you are seeing the link. Okay. And I just tried to click on that and I could open the link. Okay. On the screen
It is
now
an
you
open
can.
link. It is an open link. Anybody can put their detail, their first name, last name, and the email ID, and can access this link.
Yeah, those who do not have the link, they can just see in the chat box and click there itself, and they can open. शायद विकास जी इसको क्लिक करके सभी लोग एक्सेस कर सकते हैं ना यहीं से
एकदम
Sir,
100%.
chat
I'm
box.
able to open the link through
Anybody,
chat box. Thank you.
Yeah, you are able to open.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay. So all of you, those who are not having the link or not able to open in their mobile phones, can click on this chat box link and then work on it. Okay. You have time up to 7 p.m. After 6 o'clock, once the guest comes, we will let you know. Till such time, you concentrate on your assessment test.
No, no. It's on. It's okay. It's issue.